and welcome to the Rule Your World podcast, episode number 3. We have Graeme Crann. How are you doing, Graeme?
What's going on? Yeah, really, really good. I've just been playing some bridge on my iPhone.
Good
trying
lad.
to win me some fake money.
Time well spent then, eh?
Yeah, definitely. And how about yourself?
I'm great, bro. I'm great. Working hard and studying my courses we talked about in the last episode. Taking as much information in as I can and doing all that. We are proud to announce that we have a guest on our show today, Graeme. Kim, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
Good stuff. For the audience that doesn't know who you are, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm a singer-songwriter from Newcastle. I go by the name Kimana. My real name is Kimberly Anna, but I decided to cut the middle bit out and stick that together.
It's catchy.
Yeah, nice.
I like it.
So yeah, at the moment there's been some experimental phases of trying to figure out my style, which I'm sure every artist does.
Yeah.
But now I'm experiencing, I'm starting a course to be able to produce my own stuff, which I think is important. So that I can develop my own style. I don't want to be like, the next so and so. I want to be the first. The first of whatever it ends up being.
Whatever you
like.
want to be.
You want to have some originality, yeah?
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
Me and Graeme talk a lot about authenticity on this podcast, and we really believe that originality and authenticity, and especially transparency, is one of the best things that you can do in just being honest as a musician, a business person, or just somebody who's ruling their world, if you like.
Yeah. I just a quick one on that. Actually, I'm reading that Sam Walton book, Made in America. Anybody who's listening who hasn't heard of it, buy it. It's like $5 on the internet, or you can get the PDF for free on the internet as well. It's talking about how to be how to have humility in business. And he's talking, he's him and one of the managers. For anybody who doesn't know, Sam Walton was actually the person who started Walmart in America, which is probably one of the biggest retailers in the world.
Right? It is, I believe it is the biggest.
Yeah, I believe it is as well. I'm not too sure his statistics is right now. That's why I was like, I think it is. But if it is, then brilliant. He's basically in the airport with one of his general managers from one of the stores, and they're flying out to New York to go to the Ritz for like a board meeting. And Sam Walton turns around to the manager and he says, have you, he's like patting his pockets, he's like, have you got any money? And the manager like looks at him and he's like, yeah, and he pulls out 220s and Sam Walton's like, no, you're only going to need one of them. Let me borrow one of them and I'll give it back. This is a guy who at the time was worth about 40 billion.
The thing about Sam Walton, he doesn't act like a rich man. Like, he doesn't act like a rich man at all.
He bought his clothes from Walmart. He even used to wear a Walmart cap. He had a Ford pickup truck because he had hunting dogs. Yeah. And he says in the book, he's just like, why am I gonna have a Rolls Royce when I'm gonna have dogs in the back? Like, do you know what I mean?
He can't carry dogs in a Rolls Royce.
Yeah. He's really good. But yeah, anyway. Moving on from that.
So yeah, the topic of discussion we're going to be talking about today, guys, is learning from mistakes. I'm really eager to hear about some of your guys' mistakes and share some of my own mistakes, or should we say lessons? Because obviously mistakes is quite a strong word, but lessons, like if you learn from your mistakes, then you can really count them as a positive thing in your life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So Graeme,
I learned something just quickly before we think. I learned something the other day when I was doing some research and sort of studying up. I guess I do a lot of self-studying. And I was listening to Tai Lopez, and he said something. I was talking to Charlie about it the other day, Kim, and he said, I was listening to Tai, and Tai Lopez says, you don't want to make too many of your own mistakes. Now, I used to tell Charlie, like, no, I make lots of mistakes. And then I found this out, and I was like, you know what? I'm wrong. Like, what I was thinking about was completely wrong, because if you make too many of your own mistakes and you learn from your own mistakes, that's extremely time consuming. So what I've started to do now is to read people's books like Sam Walton and things like that to learn from their mistakes. So I don't have to time consume, sort of learning from my own. I want to learn from some of the biggest masters in the world.
Absolutely.
He's the only person to have ever made 100,000 million. Yeah.
Wow.
So 100 billion. In his empire.
That is crazy.
Massive.
That is crazy. I think learning from other people's mistakes is huge. The main person that I learned from in terms of their mistakes originally started out as my father. Do you know what I mean? My father made quite a lot of considerable mistakes in his life. He admits them all as well. I'm not ashamed to say it. He won't mind me saying it. But the things that he chose to do with his life really made me know what not to do with my life. If that was, obviously the grammar was amazing there on my behalf, but
no, but I completely understand what you mean.
Definitely. Yeah. So I really learned to learn from other people's mistakes at such a young age, because that was sort of how life was given to me, if you know what I mean. I was sort of right in this scenario where things were really quite bad and really aggressive or like argumentative, and his actions were quite sort of, you could question them, questionable. Do you know what I mean? His actions were very questionable, and I was a really young child at the time. And as I started growing older, I really sort of realised that, yeah, that's not how you operate in life at all. Do you know what I mean? So the best thing I could have done in that respect was I moved up Newcastle with my mum and really started finding my own feet in life. So I really think that was, for me, that was the turning point of me learning from mistakes, but not my own.
Yeah, man. Cyber 5 for that.
Boom.
Make it three-way.
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Boom.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, I like what you just said there, Charlie, about the whole idea of having your, learning from your father's mistakes. I had this chat with you not that long ago.
You did, man.
My real father, my biological father, I kind of grew up understanding that I will always be more of a man than he could ever be.
Yeah.
Because of the things that I sort of watched him put my mother through and what he put me through as well. And my family as well, and it really, really set the bar as to who and what I wanted to be in my life.
Mm-hmm.
You never hit a woman, never hit a child.
Absolutely.
Never use fear to sort of guide somebody. I want to use a positive influence rather than a negative influence. Yeah, for sure. So how about yourself, Kim? What have you sort of got on that side of like mistakes, maybe learning from a father figure or a mother figure, or what?
I think, luckily I'm very blessed in terms of my family being a very strong unit, and my parents are still together. I'm really grateful to have them both in my life. But I think one thing I've learned is that throughout the years, a lot of people that have been around me just kind of settle for less and kind of seem that that the way their lives are is a given and it's not something that they can change. So one thing I've learned, and of course by like self-development, reading and whatnot, being around people that encourage you and praise you, like you say, and that aim higher, it makes you realise that everything really is in your control. And if you want it, people think that there isn't enough hours in the day, but it's just time management, as you guys both know. Like, if you want to make it happen, you can. Like we all work and we still do things before work, after work. We make the time because this is what we want. And that's one thing I noticed is when I was growing up, I was getting a lot of advice from adults that had regrets already. And they weren't even, they weren't even at like midlife at that point, and they're already giving me, things to do because they've got so much regrets, and that I noticed that was really sad.
Yeah.
That's one thing. I mean, what we're talking about today about lessons, I would never call the lessons that I've learned as regrets, because I have no regrets whatsoever. It shaped me as a person, who I am today. Is because of learning those lessons. They're relevant, aren't they?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like me and Graeme always say to each other, like, we wouldn't be the people we are today without the things that happened yesterday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's William Shipley mentioned just something that you mentioned there, Kim, about how people were sort of settling for less than what they could actually achieve. I think it's William Shipley who says it. I think it is, and he says, it's not that we aim too high and miss; it's that we aim too low and succeed.
Absolutely.
That's not that, and I think that's a really, really big problem with quite a lot of our young entrepreneurs around the world now, is that they aim up very, very low and they get a good income, but they don't really succeed in what they actually want to do. I think, I mean, obviously you need to rationally think about it. It's something that me and Charlie's been talking about, rational thinking. It's a very interesting concept. I've been definitely thinking more about thinking since we had that chat. It's a very interesting subject. But, you know, I think quite a lot of these young people, they choose system one thinking, which for anybody who doesn't know, that's intuitively thinking. So as Charlie mentioned to me before, it's the idea of 2 + 2. You know it's 4.
Straight away.
You know, it's there. Whereas obviously if you said something like 37 times 45, it would take you a little bit longer to understand what that was. So you would have to rationally think.
Absolutely.
And it's really, it's really interesting because I think that's what a lot of our entrepreneurs do. They intuitively think.
Yeah.
And I think it sort of falls into one of the biases that we have, one of the 25 cognitive biases, which is basically human beings. We all have this this feeling that we are above average, and because we have that feeling that we are above average, it kind of leads us down this really intuitive path. Like, oh no, it's going to be this way, and anyway, it doesn't matter. And we don't actually think, well, actually, this could go wrong. So prepare for this going wrong. Do you know what I mean? Because it could go the opposite way to what you think it is, and it's kind of that over optimism as well. Sometimes it's something that I've learned because I'm a really optimistic person.
Yeah.
As I said in the first episode, I'm the kind of guy that starts flying away, and I've got friends like Adam that just kind of bring you back down. Yeah, and I think that I myself am learning that process now with this new project is to actually sit back and think, okay. This could be maybe international. But how about we start off with Europe first?
And
you know, instead of being so optimistic, let's just keep it at Europe first, you know, and kind of go from there. But it's something that I've really looked into is the idea of rationally thinking about things as an entrepreneur, because I think that could be a massive mistake to just go by your intuition every single time.
And do you think with your optimistic outlook, do you think it's something that can be learned? Say if somebody has always seen themselves as a pessimist, do you think it's something that can be learnt if they take the time?
I mean, there's one thing that I really that I've learned over the last couple of weeks really, and that is, you know, it's actually from Gary Vaynerchuk. He says, you know, don't care about your weaknesses, just focus on your strengths. He says it a little bit more with a few more swear words in that. But you know, he says, you know, just focus on your strengths and don't give up about what you're terrible at, basically. And I think if you have a pessimistic view, just always remember, you know, you can look at it. It always has two sides to a coin. There's always two sides to the coin.
Always.
And no matter how pessimistic you are, just remember, look, give it a try. You know, because you never know. And your pessimism is probably going to help you rationally think about things when you're actually doing it.
Yeah.
So it's about being generally optimistic, but still having that pessimism inside of you to know something can go wrong, and I'm going to be prepared for that going wrong.
Absolutely.
I really like what you were saying there. I've been a lot of people know that I'm studying a course in the science of everyday thinking, which Graeme was talking about. A guy called Danny Kahneman puts forward this idea of System 1 thinking and System 2 thinking, which obviously is the quick and effortless thinking of System 1 and the sort of extensive and the really sort of structured way of thinking of System 2 with rationally thinking. And I've always put that down to sort of my consciousness. I don't know if I haven't studied this far into it, but I don't know if the two relate. But I've always been sort of a conscious thinker. Like, say, even just walking down the street, you might think that as a System 1 thing. Like a lot of people are that way inclined, where they're just walking down the street, not paying no attention. They've got their earphones in, they're just doing their thing. But me as a person, I've always had this System 2 sort of way of thinking. I've always been analysing. My brain's always ticking. The cogs are always going, and I think it's kind of, I'm always sort of really real about things, and sometimes I worry a lot. I'm learning to sort of curb that now. But with this rational thinking, it's really sort of, I have to know every sort of dot, do you know what I mean, before they're all connected, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'm very, very similar. I believe that certain events and products in my life have made me think like that, like constantly thinking and analysing things. I think music was a very big part of that.
Makes you biased. It's another bias, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think music itself, it makes your brain more active. When you start taking apart songs and orchestrations and things like that, you start to really think about how everything is. And you never listen to music again the same.
No, not at all.
When you study music, everybody knows here that eventually music is never the same anymore, and you can't go back to the way that everybody else just listens to it, and I think that when you're walking around the street, your mind's still set in that system of just analysing things and looking around and being very aware and conscious. But I think that what System 1 and System 2 thinking can be used for is decision making.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, them things that you were talking about before, about the machines and the moulds and things like that, and the lily pad and the pond, I mean, maybe even talk about.
I was going to say I'll do that question for Kim. She hasn't heard that. Well, she might have, but yeah, absolutely. Right, Kim. If it takes 5 machines, 5 minutes to make 5 widgets, how many minutes does it take 100 machines to make 100 widgets?
500?
No.
Shit.
Use your System 2 way of thinking. That was your System 1 way of thinking.
Right.
Yeah, that was my initial one as well. I was like 100, right?
Well, right. I'll do the question again. If it takes 5 machines, 5 minutes, to make 5 widgets,
5 machines, 5 minutes,
to make 5 widgets.
Okay.
How many minutes does it take 100 machines to make 100 widgets?
Jesus Christ. What kind of question is this?
It's a trick question. No, what it is, it's to really sort of, it is to trick you. It's to make you use your System 1 way of thinking rather than your System 2 way of thinking.
I still think, what the hell's a widget?
It's just say, for example, a bit of wood or a pen.
I think I need some tea.
Yeah. But yeah, what I'll do is I'll explain the question, the answer. Right.
Okay.
So, 5 machines, 5 widgets in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Right? So if you've got 100 machines making 100 widgets, normally people would say, 100. Do you know what I mean? That's what the normal answer is. Like, a lot of people say 100 minutes to make 100 widgets by 100 machines.
Okay.
But you've got to think about it. 5 machines, 5 widgets, 5 minutes. So it takes 5 minutes for 100 machines to make 100 widgets because there's more machines.
Yeah, it's the same power.
Yeah, they're all running at the same time. The 100 machines as opposed to 5 machines. So it's still 5 minutes. Right.
It's like that whole question of what's heavier, a ton of bricks or a ton of feathers.
You're gonna have a lot more feathers, but
a lot of people are like, well, it's bricks. No, it's not. They're both the same weight. It's a ton of.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is they think in volume instead of actual weight.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, well, a ton of bricks will be really heavy instead of a ton. And they're thinking of a ton as in volume, but it's not. A ton as a weight.
Yeah,
you know? So if they're both at the same weight, then they're both the same heaviness. You know, it's
absolutely. I've learned something quite recently actually. Something called the gambler's fallacy. And that is quite in relation to what we've just talked about there. I think it was in the 1920s, there was a casino in America where they had sort of a display where, like, on the roulette machine, like, how many times black come out and how many times red come out. So 16 results were all black, right? So you had everybody from the casino rushing to this table thinking, red's gonna come, red's gonna come, red's gonna come, and would you a red? Do you know what I mean? When really you weren't, because it was completely random. When everybody was putting it on red, waiting for this red, because there'd been 16 blacks coming out, and then 17, and then 18, and then 19, and it got to 26 black outcomes on the roulette. And the casino made over $5 million in that space, in just like the space of 20 minutes, whilst everybody was betting on red, waiting for red to come out, and it never came out. Do you know what I mean? So people are just
like... The casino always wins, guys. The casino always wins.
What you've got to remember with things like that is it's a business. That's someone's business. And that's a lesson to be... I used to spend a lot of time in the casino. I used to every weekend every week I would work at Nissan. I would earn £290 a week, and what would happen was I would go straight to Ladbrokes on the Friday, and I would play, and if I won, I'd go out on the night time with all my friends. It was silly, really. It was a long time ago, but I'd just turned 18. I was a bit daft, and we would go to the casino in Newcastle, and then we'd determine whether that would let us go out on the night out or not. Sometimes we'd end up waiting until 7 o'clock in the morning for the bus because we couldn't afford a taxi. It was crazy. Do you know what I mean? So that was a big mistake that I made, and I learned from that, and I've never been in one since.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of I think there's a lot of gambling in life in itself. You know, I think entrepreneurship is gambling.
Yeah.
You know, you're taking a lot of risk. The same with being a musician, because as a musician, Kim, you know, at the same time, we're an entrepreneur. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you have to be.
All musicians are entrepreneurs. You know, you have to go and make a product, and you have to get that product out to as many people for them to buy it.
Yeah,
it's entrepreneurship. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And you need to be able to think like an entrepreneur and take risks as well. You know, like, for example, going to London as much as you possibly can, because that's where everything is now. Yeah, you're going to have to risk a lot of money to not even get anything. You might not. You know, you might get a London and not even meet a person.
Yeah.
You know, but then again, you might get there and you might meet one of the directors of Universal or something like that. Do you know what I mean? If you're placing yourself in the right place at the right time, you know. And I guess it's taking risks like that they've really got me into good places. You know, like really got me into good places. You know, it's probably one of the biggest risks that I took was moving to Spain on €400. Sold everything in my room and just had €400 and was like, yeah, let's do it. Obviously, after buying plane tickets and things like that, so it was like €400 to get me through a month until I get my first month pay. You know, and it was a huge risk, but I got the #1 university in Spain out of it. You know, because my mum, just by chance, people call it the universe, people call it coincidence, but my mum actually was on the plane flight with the mother, well, actually the wife of one of the professors. And they got into conversation, and my mum was like, oh, well, you know, my son's just moved here and so on. And eventually we met up, we had dinner. Hi, kid, if you're actually listening, or hi, Lewis, if you're actually listening. And he basically said, you know, we met up for food, and he said, what do you do? And I said, well, I was doing like coaching and things like that. And he was like, oh, that might be something that we're interested in. And I was like, oh, you know, where is that? And then he told me, and I was like, wow, you know, it's
the #1
really
university.
Yeah, it was my partner, Rothio. She was just like, well, do you know what this actually is? And I was like, no. And then she showed me everything. I was like, oh my God, this is like one of the best universities in Spain. It was selected as #1 in the same year. So I was like, wow, okay. So then I went there. So it was kind of just by luck and just by risk. You know, it was a gamble.
You would never have got that sat in Sunderland, would you?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Absolutely.
And don't get me wrong, I've made other gambles in Sunderland where it's got me into places where I've met people. You know, like I used to call. I'm not going to say the name, but I used to be friends. We kind of grew distant with somebody who's an MP now in London. You know, and he was a friend, and we used to talk to each other on the phone nearly every 2-3 days.
That's
you know,
really
so
cool.
it's just about taking a risk and trying it. You know,
and not being scared as well. Not being scared. A lot of people, when they learn so many mistakes, and especially if they don't learn from them, they start building up this fear and this anxiety about making these risks because they're like, oh, well, this hasn't gone right for me in the past, this hasn't gone right for me in the past, so they start really like, nah, let me not do that, when really they should just do that.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, mate, it's you know, being fearful is not a bad thing. It's part of our survival mechanism that's got us so far in evolution, you know?
That's true.
You know, when we used to see something that was of danger to us or our families when we were hunter-gatherers, it's in our amygdala. Our amygdala is where fear is based, basically.
Right.
And when that kicks off, you know, it's basically a warning sign. It's a huge alarm system in our head. It's a built-in alarm system, basically.
Wow.
And when if you never had that and you weren't scared of anything, that can be a very, very dangerous thing. You know, because you can't tell the difference. So you wouldn't be able to really rationally think about it. No. Because you would just intuitively be like, I'm not scared of it, let's go.
Just go for it.
Exactly. It's like you've seen the book, read the book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
No, I haven't heard that. What is that actually? That's an interesting
concept. Got it here, what's that? It's great, honestly. Oh, where are you?
Was that Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway?
Yeah, Susan Jeffers, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And it's just basically talking about what you've just said.
Oh, wow.
So it's about knowing that no matter what you do, no matter how high up, or if you achieve your goals, there'll always be fear there.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to learn to accept that it'll always be there and kind of control it and have the guts to do it anyway. And obviously, ticking off things, however small they are, you'll feel good, won't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've really done. That's actually that used to be a big mistake of mine. Actually, was I wouldn't prepare. Like I would kind of just follow my intuition and hope that the universe, God, or fate, or coincidence would run my way
and handle it for you.
Yeah, and lately I've kind of I think it's because I've been listening to quite a lot of rational thinkers: Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Ty Lopez. They kind of think on the opposite side of the spectrum, to be honest. And I've been listening, and it really, really sank in. Like, yeah, maybe I need to prepare. Which for this new project that we're starting. I crafted up a confidentiality agreement last night. You know, it's one of the reasons why I couldn't make any of the video calls and things. Is because I was just working. I really wanted to get it done. Because if my focus is broken, that's it. I'm gonna have to start all over again. That kind of thing. And it's this confidentiality agreement. Basically, I've never written anything like that before. And I was scared. You know, like how is this gonna work? But what I had to do is I got a sample from a law firm, and then I read it and I understood it, and then I would take bits out and resample and then put in what was relevant to my company and to my project at the time, and to the people who will be involved in holding confidence of the information. But once it finished, this huge rock that was on my shoulder just fell off, and I felt really light, and I was like, yeah, because now when I speak to somebody about it, I can be like, well, you need to sign this first before I go any further. And it kind of, it made me feel like I'm prepared now, you know? Whereas I never used to be. Before, I wouldn't have done that. I would have just walked in and been like, yeah, so this is my idea, guys. And then about 12 months later, they'll be like, yeah, well, we're making it, so, you know, see you later.
It's that whole thing about how Facebook started with Mark Zuckerberg, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Even Windows, Bill Gates stole the idea of Windows, apparently. I mean, I don't know, but, because this is another guy that I'm reading in about. But that idea apparently wasn't his.
There could be loads of potential things, though, when you think about it. Before these contracts were made, how many things are
stolen
original ideas?
It's like that whole idea of who we're taught about in schools. Like when I was in school, I only found out about Thomas Edison. He was the only person who I found out about. Yeah, Nikola Tesla was well before him, and he was a much more clever mind. And Einstein said, somebody asked Einstein, what does it feel like being the most intelligent man on the earth? And he said, I don't know, ask Nikola Tesla.
Wow, that's a really good reply.
And so why weren't we taught about him in school? Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's a mistake of the education system. I mean, later I found out that this is really going off, but Nikola Tesla, he made AC, which is alternative current. And Thomas Edison found DC, direct current. And direct current is the reason why you pay per meter that the electricity goes through. Yeah. Whereas alternative current is just ongoing. It's free energy for everyone. You know, so it's really.
That's why that doesn't really work in favor of anyone.
No, it doesn't work in favor of capitalism.
No,
do you know what I mean?
That's it.
But really, if you haven't checked him out, check out Nikola Tesla. He's a very, very interesting gentleman.
Absolutely. I really wanted to bring up a point. The main mistake that I used to make would be to take people's opinions as religion. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but all throughout my life, I think it did stem from my father. But in music, when I was starting in music, my peers, I would always look for approval. I would always sort of take everyone's opinions and apply it. So if someone gave me an opinion on an idea or a song that I'd wrote or something like that, And even if I didn't get a positive reaction, I was never any good at handling that. And I would always sort of scrap it or put it to one side or just really start beating myself up about it. And recently I was sort of put off making music, and it was like, it kills me inside, because that's what I focused on for a good 3-4 years of my life. Do you know what I mean? That was every single day for me. And someone said to me, like, look, music, it's few and far between as in the people who become successful and what it does actually take to be successful. And I listened to that opinion, and I wish I never did. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many times that I've listened to people's opinions when they haven't even achieved it themselves. Do you know what I mean? Like, they haven't achieved it themselves, and I've listened to these people who are just sat in the same room as me, who are on equal level as me, telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing, when really they're in no place to be telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing, because they've never done it themselves.
Exactly. If they were to try and be in your shoes and try and make a life and a career out of what you want to do, they'd find it so scary, because it is. It's really scary stepping on your own and be like, actually, I want this in life, and you know, with whatever tools you have or may not have, you're going to make it happen. Regardless. A lot of people just sit back and give you their opinion, whether you like it or not, but they haven't got a clue, really.
Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. I always.
I think it's a really good thing. I mean, when you take judgment and sort of opinions of other people. So I mean, it's one of I've been studying the 25 cognitive biases, right? And one of them in there is actually authority tendency, which basically means that because we've been brought up in societies where there's always a dominative figure, like a dominant figure, we're sort of set down in social classes. Like, for example, you have the head teacher, the deputy head, then teachers and students. Then you even inside of that you have bullies and people who get bullied. You have this whole system where it's just hierarchical, hierarchy. And because of that, we fall victim to this cognitive bias. So when somebody gives us an opinion, and sometimes we socially put them above us,
on a pedestal.
We will take that because it's a cognitive bias, and we just fall victim to it straight away. One of the biggest ones, mate, is our parents. Our parents would be like, "Do this," and you'd be like, "Well." Yeah, I was watching a Joe Rogan podcast. No, sorry, one of his stand-ups. I was talking to my mum about this, actually. And he says, you know, does anybody remember when you're a child and you're kind of holding your mum's hand or your dad's hand and you're looking up and you're thinking, when I get old, I'm going to know everything just like you. And then you actually get to their age and you're like, you know nothing. What are you doing? Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
and it's because we do. As adults, we realise, well, hang on, you know absolutely nothing. It's the same with teachers. I've bumped into teachers when I used to go to school, and I would think, how did you used to teach me? How? And then you realise, well, because you didn't know what they knew, you know, and so because of that, they were up here, so you did everything they said. And as soon as you sniffed out that they didn't know anything, that's when you start becoming rebellious.
Yeah, that's when you start misbehaving.
Yeah.
I was in school, I remember, I'll tell you a quick story. In school, I used to be, college, in sixth form, I used to be so bored, right? I picked the silliest subjects that I weren't interested in, and I was, just because at the time, I wanted to be an architect, so all I was there for was I didn't have the maths grade that I needed at GCSE to be able to do that in sixth form. I didn't have the science grade in GCSE to be able to do that at sixth form, so I sort of picked the relevant subjects in order for me to get the UCAS points. To be an architect in university, and I was just the most bored. And I used to just, you know, when you're in lessons and you're meant to be sort of taking notes and doing the activities, all I would do is draw and make the title look really pretty and the date and my name, and the teacher was like, "Are you autistic?" And like I was like in front of the whole class as well, and I was like, "Wow, man. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, like for real." And
he should be fired.
And I went, yeah, exactly.
He shouldn't be a teacher. He's there only for the salary and the certain income.
Absolutely, and the teacher's just regurgitating information off a book. Do you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, and it really embarrassed me in front of the whole class. I was a horrible person in college after that. I shouted at my teachers. I was in counselling. Oh man, it was horrible. I quit after the first year after that, and I got a normal job anyway. So.
Have you ever heard of Les Brown?
Sorry?
Wes Brown.
Les Brown.
Les Brown.
Yeah, he's like a motivational speaker as well.
Right.
And he was set down, I think it was a grade or two, because he was listed as like mentally retarded.
Right.
He was adopted, him and his brother, he was a twin, were adopted as babies. And so he was behind like his year, he was a year or two behind. And you know, he makes it a very strong point and an important point for people to know that just because what people say you are, it doesn't define who you are. It's only if you let how they perceive you to be, if you let that define you. But of course, I'm sure you did not allow that definition to
absolutely
be.
Not. I was so enraged actually. I made the biggest insult back straight away. I thought I said something really vulgar to him in front of the whole class, and I got suspended anyway. So, but besides the point, like, the guy should never have said that. Do you know what I mean? Or the lady, I think it was a lady. Yeah, she was.
It's not right.
Not at all.
At the end of the day, this is just a mistake that they're going to learn in their life.
I hope so.
And they probably went home and mulled it over, to be quite honest, and probably felt really, really bad about it, but their pride probably stopped them from saying sorry to you at a later date. But what would have probably happened, here's another cognitive bias here, is you would have fallen victim to dislike and hatred tendency.
Yeah,
which basically means that no matter what this person says now, you're never going to learn from them because you really dislike them.
Absolutely.
So, no matter what you say. I think a lot of people have this problem, and I mean, obviously, I definitely don't, but with Muslims in England, perhaps, I know especially in the northeast, because they kind of see this media look of Muslims and Islam, and
how they're portrayed.
They have this dislike, and no matter what no matter whatever they see, it's not going to change their blinkers now.
It's the same way with hoodies. You know, like people who hang around in gangs and hoods. They're a product of their environment. They're not bad people. They don't know any different on how to act like that.
Yeah,
so it's about people's perception and the media bias and all of that, and how they sensationalize these people to be the bad guys.
And I think that's a big mistake that we all make, is prejudice.
Absolutely.
It's something that I go through quite a lot. You know, I don't know if anybody knows, but I've got tattoos on my arms. I'm tattooed here. I'm tattooed here.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm in business and I own my own company, but not only that, I actually work with executives that have owned their company for 20 years or so, or they've been in the industry for 40 years. And here, it's extremely conservative. So when they look at me, they're kind of like, okay, he's very young, and he has tattoos on his hands. You know, you prejudge straight away. But when I open my mouth and I start telling them about communication and how we can use communication in their marketing, or how we can use the application of English to help globalize their business, they start listening to me a little bit deeper, like, hang on, he's got something to say here. And this is something that I will tell to people who have tattoos, who are having a problem actually getting a job, is learn how to use this and learn how they use this, and you will get the job.
100%. I was at a networking morning sort of event the other day, and there was an old gentleman there. He was quite I don't want to be like sort of negative towards him, but he was very sort of stiff upper lip and oh my, do you know what I mean? I'm nothing against him at all, but he was questioning me on my business. I just went in my King's Cult t-shirt. I wasn't wearing a hat, so I was like this. I had my glasses. I was just like, yeah, talking about my business. And he was like, so how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you make money? What's this? What's your method of this? And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, this guy's attitude stinks, because I'm a young kid, not a kid, but a kid in his eyes. He thinks that I'm not eligible to be there. And because he's got a bit of money in his bank and he's wearing a suit and things, I'm like, wow. So I did for the rest.
Start somewhere.
Do you know what I would have said? I would have asked him, "Are you technology based?" And if he said no, I would have went, "Good luck in the next 10 years."
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
Because if he is not understanding technology within the next 10 years and he's not technology based, he is making a very big mistake keeping in business.
Absolutely that. At the end of the day, mate, if people are going to have this sort of negative preconception of just because of what people look like, they're going to make a lot of mistakes, and they're going to burn bridges before. You never know. The guy I could be the next biggest businessman in the world, and he's going to be eating them words up for breakfast.
You know what, mate? It's something that I've witnessed very often, to be quite honest. Is, because of what you look like, people do not think that you are eligible, as you said, or a viable person to be in the room or something like that. And it is all about just a little bit of time. And if you keep on chipping away at your block, the next time you go to a meeting and he's there, and you say, oh, guess what? I just signed a deal with this person. And they're like, what?
That's
you
it.
Just smile. You're not nasty to them. You're extremely nice, mate. Yeah. There's a saying when they say, kill them with kindness.
Absolutely.
It's the best thing that you can do to anybody. Any of your enemies, or your, as people in hip hop say, your haters, right? I really, really think, like, look, just kill them with kindness. Don't diss them, or don't cause beef.
Revenge is a dish best served, best not served, isn't it? Like, you just let them just crack on.
Yeah, and that's the coldest thing you can do. I read an article by Gary Vaynerchuk the other day, and he said, one of the worst things that will really kill your enemies, or your competition, as he puts it, is not to know what they're actually doing. Because what it shows is, I don't care what you're doing. You're working hard, well done, clap, clap. But so am I. So I'll see you at the top.
Exactly that.
It's don't enter competition. I read something before, a flower in the garden doesn't look towards the flower next to it and try and beat it. It just grows. It just grows and blossoms. And think of yourself as the flower and just blossom. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if that one's a little bit smaller or that one's a little bit bigger.
It doesn't matter.
Just go and just grow.
It's true. Like, when you're focused, you shouldn't really be looking at what everyone else is doing. It's all about what you're doing. I totally agree. So just winding it back in about mistakes, Graeme, what would you say, if any, what would you say a main mistake of yours would be that constructively you've learned from?
I mean, me personally, I was thinking about when we actually set the subject, and one of my biggest mistakes, and I think quite a lot of people will know exactly what I'm talking about if they're listening, is running away. When I was younger, I used to run away from quite a lot of my problems, and I actually wouldn't face them. And now I always say, if I knew then what I knew now, I think a lot of people say that. I kind of look back and I'm like, wow, if I knew then what I know now, I would not have run away. And what I was doing at the particular time could have been so powerful by now. But because I was very young in mindset, and still very weak in my mindset as well, in my opinion. Now, a lot of people would have been like, no, not at that time, you were doing really well. Yeah, I was doing really well, but you don't see behind the curtain, do you know what I mean? All you see is the Wizard of Oz. You don't see the guy behind the curtain who's actually, you don't see that. And I think now, because I've learned to be more authentic, and this is just who I am now, do you know what I mean? Then people can actually see the wizard behind the curtain, and it's no longer this huge green Oz.
It's anymore. Transparent.
And it becomes transparent and authentic. And I think that I learned by in relationships and things like that, friendships, do not run away and just fix it. Just fix the problem. Be honest with the person, or be honest with the thing. Maybe it's yourself. And just fix the problem. Don't run away from all of your problems, and you will actually find yourself becoming more stronger. Because then another problem will come, and you'll just look at it and you'll be like, "Well, I tell you what, you're not as bad as the last one, so let's do this."
Let's do this. Game on.
And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that I used to make, was running away from problems and hiding. Kind of like, it's a cognitive bias, to be honest, is pain avoidance tendency. You basically distort the facts to make it bearable to your views.
I hear that all day, mate. All day. I used to smoke a lot of weed because of that reason.
Yeah, just to distort the facts.
Yeah, just because I didn't like reality.
I was exactly the same. When I was at university, we used to smoke, and you know what? It's not good for you. I mean, some people still do it, and brilliant. It's passing legalizations in America and whatever. But at the end of the day, look, this is what I found out. It's good for some people and it's bad for others. All right. Some people, they love peanuts, and they're really, really nice and tasty. You give it to somebody else, and it can kill them.
One peanut.
And that's a peanut. Do you know what I mean? So don't just take, like for me, alcohol. I do not drink alcohol now.
No.
That's because it's not good for me.
No.
You know, it's like I have an allergic reaction. You know, I drink 2-3 beers and I'm gone. You know, a normal person's not like that. Do you know what I mean? So it tells me I have a different reaction to
less
that
of a tolerance to it.
Yeah. So I just don't stop. Or if I do have a beer, I have one beer, and that will be it. Do you know what I mean? And that's with food as well. You know, so I mean, and people are like, oh, but your life must be really boring. Like, trust me, if you have my mind, like how it actually goes around, it's never boring. Trust me, it's never boring. So yeah, I would probably say that is probably one of the biggest mistakes is the fact of just running away and trying and distorting facts and not being honest with myself. I can
really vouch for that, mate, because I did the same problem. 2013 December, everything was going pretty sort of tits up, if you like. Everything was just sort of dark, and all the people that were around me, we sort of conflicted, and we weren't compatible anymore. And I packed my bags and went running for my hometown of Wakefield near Leeds, and down there, that's when my life changed. I went to that breakfast meeting the other day, and Brad Burton, the MD of 4 Networking, thanks for sorting that out, by the way, Graeme. He said one thing. He says 2 things in your life: the worst day of your life and the day it all changed guide you down a path. Think about the worst day of your life, forget that. Think about the best day in your life, and then that walks you down your path. But then he also said, think about the day that it all changed for you. And I was sat there, everyone was around, and he was still talking, and I was still stuck on this point of the day it all changed for me. And that was moving away to the flat, because my mum was paying my bills. I was smoking weed every day for 3 years. I was doing this, doing that, just focusing on music, and all my friends, like, we just started conflicting with all my friends. And I was like, enough's enough. Let me go down there, start a blank canvas. Nobody really knows who I am anymore. Let me just go down there and start painting the picture of who I am again. It done me wonders, but at the same time, if I like, couple months ago maybe, I start texting these people again saying, look, I was young, I was naive, I was stupid, I didn't quite see it the way you saw it, and then I sort of tried to balance the scales back out by saying, look, I admit what I did, and do you know what I mean? So it's all about facing your problems, like what Graeme said. Like, don't run away. Like, as much as I think that was the best day, like the best thing I could have done at the time, because I wouldn't have been able to see the mistakes if not. But at the same time, you
always choose the best choice, mate. You always choose the best choice for you at the time. Every decision that you make is a positive decision in your eyes.
Because especially because you learn from it. It's not always
the best one for you. Like in the future, it's not the best future decision that you could have made.
That's exactly it. Because I was all eggs in one basket with that decision.
Yeah.
And then I feel like a year later, I find myself sort of messaging these people, being like, look, I now know how you felt and all of this sort of stuff. And it's like, I wasn't eating my words. I was just being honest. I was just like, look, I was young. I was just seeing things in a different way. And like that mistake, like it was a massive, massive mistake that I learned from, mate. Massive, yeah. Like, honestly, Kim, I'd really like to hear more about some of your mistakes, though.
Yeah, of course. Well, like, I really appreciate hearing both of your stories. I can definitely relate. Mine is a lot like that, but I think a lot of females may understand. I know a lot of males will also, but it's a very female predominant thing to do would be when running away from what you want to do by putting all your love and care and attention, all your energy into someone else. So I've been in 2 long relationships, kind of back to back.
Right.
I've been single for coming up to a year now.
Wow.
And within this year, there's obviously been like ups and downs, but I have grown so much as an individual, and I know this is because I've been single. So I was in a 3-year relationship. Just kind of fizzled out. We grew apart. We both age and
changed in different ways.
Yeah, exactly. So after that, I kind of realised, what I felt I needed, what I deserved, and whatnot. I got a tattoo that says it's under my ribs, just right here. over maybe even, and it says love yourself first, but it's backwards. So it's in this bouge writing. If anyone was to look at it, it would just look like a pattern. But when I look in the mirror, I can see what it says.
Oh, wow.
So it's for me to remind myself, whatever happens, love yourself first before you love anyone else.
You have to.
And after that, I was in a 4-year relationship, and within that relationship, I really noticed it because after university, that was the perfect time to really to really focus on my goals and what I wanted to do, but I was really scared. I didn't feel like I was ready. Now I know that there's no better time than the present, but at that time I instead decided, because my partner was from Ireland, that I would move there and work there. And it was really running away from what I wanted to do. I mean, during that time I was there over a year, and I built a life for myself, new friends, and I really grew as an individual. I learned that I could, how independent I could be. But at the same time,
you put all your passion on the back burner with music and things.
Yeah, it was as if my body was literally telling me. I had stomach aches every day. I felt like I was up every day.
Say that again, Kim, sorry.
Sorry, like I would have these stomach aches every day, like I was about to throw up.
Wow.
And I would have it every day, and it would reduce me to tears. And my legs were aching, my whole body was just aching. And I didn't know what it was. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, I'd go to the doctors, and of course that's costly in Ireland. We don't have the NHS there.
Yeah.
But really, I think what it was it was my body telling me, this isn't right. It's not right. And it took a lot, because even though I didn't feel right, I was still very comfortable, and having to tell myself, look, you've got to go back home and you've got to try and make this work. You don't know you don't know what's going to happen, where to start, but it has to start.
Absolutely. It's like you put all your eggs in one basket and going to Ireland and doing all of these things.
Yeah.
And then when that basket sort of collapses and all your eggs are there on the floor, and you're just like, oh, you have to go back, and I really, really like what you're saying there. I really think that in terms of, obviously I can't speak on behalf of gender, the opposite gender should I say, but a lot of time females have such an amazing mothering instinct, as in nature. This is nature what I'm talking about here. Females have that mothering instinct that males will never have. I think personally, in nature, in the animal kingdom, males, they mate and they hunt, they eat, sleep and mate. Do you know what I mean? That's their sort of sole purpose in nature, whereas the female is the mother. Do you know what I mean? That is, they've got that, so they sort of, like you said, like, love,
your maternal instinct to care for someone.
Exactly that. So like in terms of females, that I'm saying, like, females might be able to relate to this, as in they'll put other people first before themselves because of that nature inside them.
Exactly, and you see it everywhere. And when I first started doing that, I felt really guilty. I actually felt a huge level of guilt for actually wanting to put myself first, because it's something that I never had done up to that point. I was 22 and I knew how to look after everyone else. I knew how to be, the host, and to take care of people and to listen to people. But all that time I'd never listened to myself or even started to take care. And I really had to hit a low before I could climb back up and realise, set some rules for myself and be like, look, when you're not feeling this, don't do it. And if it is too much, stop, take a breather. And having to say no to people,
that's hard.
Like just going with your gut. It took a lot. Interesting how we've all kind of run away from things. And I know, like, it is good to read books or to hear about other people's personal accounts about running away to kind of to make us consider these things and to save time. But I think a lot of the time it's really necessary to go through these things yourself, so that it'll never happen again. Because you could read these things and be motivated by it, but who's to say that years later something might creep in and you don't face it, you don't take responsibility, and that's because you haven't had to face something like that before,
Yeah, that, you've just made a really good point. That's something that I actually question myself about, because I thought, I need to learn from these people, but I thought, but what happens if a situation comes over and it's really disguised and I don't really realise until I've learned the lesson? And then I thought, well, yeah, I guess so. And but what it's kind of urged me to be is kind of more aware about a situation, and rather than actually just going into the situation, actually standing and just looking at the situation and being like, okay, so this is where I am, and there's this side and there's this side, and then hopefully by that time, when I've actually like sort of reasoned it and seen it, I'll kind of sort of sit and go, I've read something about this before, you know, and kind of try and remember and recollect and become aware of the situation. Like, well, this person said that this happened. So if I do that, then there's a bigger chance of that happening.
Because it's happened before.
So what I want to do is just try and guard myself around the back of it or something like that. I don't know. But I think it's I think you're completely correct there, Kim. Is, you know, you have to go through some things. Some things you can't read in a book and learn from. No,
experience is vital in some things to be able to
learn. It's good to understand like the present moment as well. I don't know if any of you I'm sure you've heard of Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, 100%.
About like, you know, present and about like stepping back and just a bit of mindfulness, seeing it for what it is, like stepping away from emotions and initial feelings and just kind of seeing problems or anything for what it is. Before starting making steps on how to tackle it. I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
Definitely. It's just something, without getting really spiritual there, you mentioned the gentleman there. It's very interesting, Eckhart. There's another guy, Muji. Have you heard of Muji?
Muji?
Yeah. He's a really interesting spiritual teacher. And he says something, he always says, who is the I behind I am? And it's basically, you are the awareness of thoughts, because how can you be something that changes because you still remain? Do you know what I mean? It's like you saying, okay, this is my iPhone, these are my clothes, these are my thoughts, these are my emotions, but who is my? This is if I'm not my body, who is my? It's a possession of mine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So who is mine? And people say, I am. Who is I? You know, and what he does is he gets you to realise, like, well, I'm not the body. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my emotions, because I watch them happen. I'm the spectator of my thoughts. I'm the spectator of my emotions. So who am I, really? You know, like, you are not emotion, you're not thoughts, you're not feelings, you're not your body, you're not your mind, because your mind plays games, your mind changes. How can you be something that changes so often if you remain the same?
Yeah.
Very true.
That's really cool insight.
It's really interesting and really deep stuff, do you know what I mean? Like, you kind of don't drink a bottle of wine and then watch that, you know, that kind of thing. You start questioning whether this is all real or not, you know? Like, oh my God, Morpheus is going to
start pinching yourself a bit.
Yeah, it's going to unplug me from the Matrix. Like, oh my God, what's happening?
Wow. Yeah. I always, when I was young, you know that film Men in Black?
Yeah.
Where the little alien guy, he's inside that guy.
Yeah, head.
Yeah, and it opens up and he's just this little alien controlling it.
Yeah.
I always felt like that little alien. Like, I felt like this is just a vessel for me. Like, this is just... It's just a vessel.
It's just a flesh vessel. That's what it is.
A vehicle.
We're just meat wagons, mate. And we're just going through this thing.
The process of life.
Yeah. Joe Rogan says, whenever you start taking life too seriously, just remember that we're pushing button monkeys on an organic spaceship.
Yeah.
You know, because we are literally just flying through space right now. Like, even on this podcast right now, we're just flying through space. And I think this is a mistake that a lot of people make, is that they're not actually aware that they live on a planet.
There's something way bigger than themselves out there than just what's going on in their mind.
Yeah, I think they're like, and I don't mean that in the concept of like God or anything like that. I don't mean that. What I mean is on a scientific level, I do not think that people actually look outside of where they actually live.
Unless they're on magic mushrooms.
In a town or in a city or in a house. They live in a box. And they actually, when they look up at the sky, the stars are not stars to them. They're not planets.
They're just dots.
They're just lights on the ceiling.
Mm-hmm. The doors of perception.
Like it's kind of like asking yourself, like, do you actually realise you live in a solar system?
Mm-hmm.
And your planet right now is currently spinning around a huge ball of fire, what you call the sun. Like, I don't think that we become aware of things are sort of our planetary reality, if that's even a concept, like a planetary reality, where it's like they're kind of just stuck here and that's it. And I think that's a really big mistake that we all make. Is
Absolutely.
that we go through life like this, and if we do that and we actually look around, we start to experience life differently.
You start to question things as well more.
And it starts creating curiosity. And curiosity is the sole reason our civilization is as advanced as it is.
Absolutely.
Because human beings were curious.
Why do you think...
It kind of reminds me a bit, Charlie, you know, when you're saying, like, when you're walking around, like, you have a huge level of awareness, even when you're listening to music and whatnot. I was watching a TED Talk recently, and it was a gentleman discussing how a great way of being more aware is to kind of walk around, even if it's your hometown, as if you were abroad or as if you were in a new city. And because when you're somewhere else, you're soaking it all in. You justified it. Wow, look at this. Let's do this. And I decided to do that. I was like, okay, I've seen all these things before, but
countless times.
I'll try it. And I noticed like so many more things. And I was like, wow, like, when you decide to open your eyes and to put all of your senses into what you're doing, opportunities are everywhere. And it's so true.
I think a lot of the problem is as well without like our age people, we're like this. We're walking, we're getting the bus, we're like this.
And it's so easy to not even notice that you're doing it. You think you're aware, and then the next thing you know, you're like, oh crap.
I think it's because our brain, it just goes for the most accessible option.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like whatever's accessible, that's it. That's the answer.
Easy way out.
So you're like, and because this has become so accessible to us, this is now the answer. So we're like, oh, we'll just do this, rather than actually looking around and speaking to someone.
I used to be the guy, you know when they were in college, and you were by yourself, and you were waiting to meet your friends, and you were ashamed of waiting by yourself in college. Well, I've seen this a lot anyway. So you'd pretend to be, you'd be just like, yeah, I'm doing something here, waiting for my friends. And really, you're just not, do you know what I mean? But when was the world like that? Do you know what I mean? Like, why would someone act like that? Like, I've done it before, like a long time ago, obviously, like 5 years ago now, however long ago it was, maybe not 5 years ago, but like, really, there's no need to do that. If you just look around, there's so many people, like older people and people that maybe aren't as tech savvy, they're so willing to talk.
It's as if you're weird to look around.
Yeah, that's it.
It's like when I'm traveling, I always make friends. Like, I don't need to. And sometimes, like, it's not even me that makes the first move, but it's because I'm looking around that I obviously come across more open and conversations are made and you meet some extraordinary people. But if you're closed and your body language is closed and you're just totally focused on your phone or whatever, then you miss out on so many things, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And the thing is as well, you get sort of brainwashed by whatever it is your interests are on here as well.
I have a little bit of a problem with that actually here. You know, because that's one thing I kind of miss about England. Is when I was in England, I would just turn around and start talking to somebody in the bus, or or in the town, or something like that, or in the coffee shop. Yeah. Whereas here, it's kind of like, "Hola." now you're starting to walk into tricky water. You're like, "¿Cómo está?"
The conversation's quite limited in that respect.
It becomes very, very limited, unless you're fluent in the language. Then you're all right, of course, but. It's it's a little bit more tricky for me to make friends. Yeah, indeed. I'm not alone, definitely. No. It is a lot more.
I understand that. Definitely. Yeah. And the plus side.
I guess it's really helped your use of body language, though. I bet body language really came into play going to a different country where language is a big barrier.
Definitely, yeah. And quite a lot of the things, like for example, you learn different things as well. Like, for example, like you'll learn words because they're pointing at things. Do you know what I mean? So, like, let's say you're going to get a pastry at a place. So you get like a coffee and a pastry, and un café will be a coffee, yeah. And then e is and, so like e, and then you look at a crowd and they'll point and they'll go este. So este is like this one, right? And I'm like, este. So now I know this one. I'm like, yes. So now I know that word just because of their body language point to it. You know, so
that's really cool.
You do start to learn little bits and bobs, you know, because of that. And a lot of the time, it just comes down to like, actually, I would say that was probably a mistake of mine. Actually, just going back to mistakes again, is I should have probably studied Spanish more before I come here.
Do you think that's more of a British thing? Like,
100%.
This country, you know, different languages is not high up in the educational priorities, which is really difficult later on in life for ourselves.
Well, I mean, just sort of going through it a little bit. I mean, I teach people English. I actually coach people English. I'm a language coach here for one of my jobs that I do, and I have a talk with a woman who's actually she's an expert in public speaking. She's a fantastic woman. She made a lot of progress, and we had this talk about why we think that English is actually going to be a global language. And she said, "Oh, you know, it's this, it's that. Everybody uses it." And I was like, "Yeah, everybody uses it, but let's go a little bit deeper. Why does everybody use it?" And we started waking it up, and it's because it's just a lot less complex. You know, it really is, and it's kind of. It's left to the creative mind rather than a lot of logical rules, which what most Latin languages are, Italian, French, and Spanish. Yeah. Our language has the rules, like some of the words and things like that, of the word structure of Latin, but the actual sentence structure is German. Yeah, so that's how it's completely weird.
It's more simple.
Because German's probably one of the most hardest languages to learn.
Really?
Because it's ridiculous, man. Wow. It's so hard. But you actually realise how we actually, like, there's some words in Spanish that you understand what it means.
Yeah.
If someone said exacto,
exactly,
it sounds like exact. Yeah.
It's the same with French, isn't it? Like all Latin.
Yeah, so and you start seeing correlations between the languages, so it makes the language easier to learn, but you kind of want to, I'm just going back to the mistake just because it's going to get deep. It's definitely communication. If anybody's going to move abroad to rule their world, make sure that you understand their culture before you go. Yeah,
absolutely. So, just to conclude, guys, I think we've just hit over an hour and 25 minutes there. Graeme, would you like to just round off the old mistakes and a bit like maybe a sort of punchline that you want to give our audience, a bit of advice?
Okay, so I mean, I think as we've all come, I mean, one thing that we're all noticed from this whole thing is that everybody makes mistakes, and quite a lot of us have made the same mistakes as well. So go and make mistakes, of course. Also learn from other people's mistakes. So study up and learn from all of the big people in the world who've made mistakes in business. If it's in business, then go and read a book by Warren Buffett. Or, you know, he might be seen as an elitist, and oh dear, I don't want to be reading a book by an elitist, but at the end of the day, he's worth 60 billion. He must be doing something, right?
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? So if you want to go into business, definitely be reading about these people. Sam Walton, Made in America, fantastic book. And I think that you can learn from other people's mistakes and definitely at least learn from their stories as if they were the grandfather. You know, be the children of these people and just listen to their story as if it was your grandfather or grandmother speaking to you.
It really helps to sort of allow people, if you're reading and you're taking different accounts from different places, it really gives you a chance to sort of generate your own opinion on the way things should be for yourself. Because obviously the books and the mind frames of these sort of really high profile thinkers and these elite people and the really successful people, obviously their personalities, it might be due to their star sign or their DNA or whatever, it might not be fully relevant, but if you can sort of learn and experience and read as much as you can and self-develop as much as you can, I'm sure you guys will be able to agree, you take little bits from every single sort of thing that you put yourself into, do you know what I mean? So, and then that's what creates yourself.
In neuroscience, it's called mirror neurons, which means to find a role model and to replicate the role model.
Right. That's
all
cool.
you can do, really. Like, no one's truly original. Everybody has influences, and you take little bits until you've shaped you know, who you are as a person or the product, you know.
Yeah, exactly that. You become a product of your environment. And if you read books by the big elitists and billionaires and millionaires, then you're going to take a lot from what they actually think, how they think, what their beliefs, their values are, and you will adopt them.
You're naturally going to incorporate it.
Absolutely, apply it.
Which could be beneficial for you, depending on your belief system, depending on your values. If you don't want to be a billionaire, then there's no point, you know. Read something.
Carry on watching Jeremy Kyle.
Yeah, or just learn. You know, if you want to be a philanthropist, then go and read a book by a philanthropist, one of the biggest ones in the world. But just know that these elite people who are so bad are also pretty big philanthropists as well.
Absolutely. So, it's been a wonderful time talking to you guys. Kim, it's been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Not a problem.
It's been great.
We'll be seeing some more of you in the future, no doubt. So, to all those people out there who are watching, rule your world, build your empire, and don't forget, learn from your mistakes, learn from other people's mistakes, and experience as much as you can. Have a great day, guys, and we'll speak in 2 weeks' time.
Booyah!
Bye.
Peace.
As well, like university, in business.
Graeme, I've just realised, mate, it's 2 minutes. I've got my headphones I've got my headphones plugged in, so it's not recording any of the audio. Let me take my headphones out, and then let's...
You're joking?
Not at all, mate. I've just realised I can't... Sorry, bro.
We didn't get that far.
No, I'm glad we realised early. I need to shut my door.
There's a mistake. There's a mistake.
The screen is still recorded. This could be a good outtakes. 2 minutes. I need to shut my door.
I thought we were wearing pants for a second then.
What?
It's just stands up in his life.
I was like, oh shit, that's an outtake, alright.
We should do a few of them actually, like we should do some outtakes. It would be hilarious.
Right, let's start again. I think we could come in a lot smoother anyway, so I'm not really... 2 minutes. Ah, God, what an idiot. Right, mistake number 1. Right. Right.